Welcome back to another mind-blowing dive into the ultimate pop culture crossover. What exactly happens when a legendary, unapologetic British pop icon collides with the biggest, most unstoppable K-pop phenomenon on the entire planet? Imagine Robbie Williams, the undisputed bad boy of UK pop, who knows a thing or two about dominating boy bands and solo charts, sitting down and actually ranking the 7 members of BTS. Yes, you heard that right, from the absolute best to the so-called worst. But wait, what hidden criteria is he actually using behind closed doors? Is it raw vocal prowess, mesmerizing stage presence, or sheer unadulterated superstar charisma? How will a massive global army react when they hear who took the glittering crown and who unexpectedly got pushed to the bottom of this highly controversial list? Are you truly ready to see if your ultimate bias survived the brutal, unfiltered honesty of a music industry veteran who has seen it all? Buckle up and brace yourselves, because this explosive ranking is about to shake the internet to its very core, and I guarantee you won't believe who takes the number 7 spot.
Number 7, Jin, the hidden vocal titan facing Robbie's cruel verdict. Starting out at the absolute bottom of this ultra-exclusive ranking sits none other than the eldest member of BTS, Kim Seok-jin, a placement that might send absolute shockwaves through the global fandom. Yet when you break down the razor-sharp logic of a seasoned veteran like Robbie Williams, the perspective becomes fascinatingly clear and deeply provocative. To truly understand why Robbie made this jaw-dropping call, we have to travel back to the very origins of Jin's journey into the music industry, a story that reads almost like a Hollywood movie script because he was not even originally looking to become a music star at all. While studying acting at the prestigious Jungkook University, Jin was randomly scouted off a public bus simply because of his striking visual presence, stepping into big-hit entertainment with zero formal background in singing or dancing, facing a mountain of pressure that would have broken lesser artists right from the start. Robbie Williams, who himself rocketed to international stardom as the wildly charismatic bad boy of the legendary 90s British boy band Take That, before launching an unprecedented solo career, knows better than almost anyone on earth the immense burden of being labeled the visual or the charming frontman who has to prove his artistic worth to a skeptical global music industry. Over the years, Jin underwent one of the most remarkable musical transformations in modern pop history, spending countless hours in practice rooms late at night, pushing his vocal limits day after day, until he earned the revered title of BTS's silver voice, capable of hitting soaring, tear-jerking high notes that can shatter hearts across packed arenas from Wembley Stadium in London to Rose Bowl in Los Angeles. Think about his legendary solo masterpieces like Awake, where he bared his soul about feeling inadequate yet determined to keep flying, or Epiphany, a majestic stadium ballad that became a global anthem for self-love and emotional healing, featuring breathtaking live vocal belts that held 80,000 fans completely spellbound, and most recently, his blockbuster collaboration with global rock legends Coldplay on The Astronaut. Robbie Williams meticulously analyzed these vocal performances, praising Jin's incredible belting control, rich emotive tone, and genuine sincerity that feels like a classic 90s rock ballad powerhouse, which Robbie himself deeply respects as a master of massive stadium sing-alongs like Angels. However, Robbie's assessment was not focused solely on vocal capability. It looked at the holistic, explosive energy, dance versatility, and raw edge required to dominate a solo stage in today's hyper-competitive global pop landscape. In Robbie's unfiltered critique, while Jin delivers unforgettable theatrical emotion, possesses a brilliant comedic timing, and holds the legendary status of being the worldwide handsome visual anchor, his dance fluidity and aggressive stage presence slightly fall short when placed side by side with the raw hypnotic performance machines in the rest of the group like J-Hope, Jimin, or Jungkook.
Robbie noted that in the high-octane world of global pop, where every microsecond of dance delivery and explosive rock star swagger can define an icon, Jin's classical, poised approach to performance feels more suited for high-end musical theater or sweeping dramatic balladry rather than the chaotic, edgy pop-rock dominance that Robbie personally prioritizes when judging a definitive showman. Robbie pointed out that during complex, grueling choreographies like On, Idol, or Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Jin works tirelessly to maintain precision, but lacks the instinctual, predatory rhythm that naturally flows through the group's main dancers, making him look slightly more calculated in his movements on stage. Yet, despite placing him at number 7, Robbie openly marveled at Jin's unbelievable resilience, pointing out that going from a college actor with no music background to singing live 3-octave belts while performing intense dance routines in front of massive global audiences is a feat of sheer willpower and discipline that commands unconditional respect from any serious veteran artist. Beyond the music, Jin's role within BTS extends far beyond his notes, serving as the emotional anchor and peacekeeper who uses self-deprecating humor, his famous dad jokes, and his caring elder brother persona to ease tensions during high-stakes international press tours, brutal television appearances, and demanding world tours. Robbie compared Jin's stabilizing presence to the crucial internal dynamics of Take That, where having an unselfish, mentally grounded member who keeps everyone united is often the secret ingredient that prevents megagroups from collapsing under the weight of global fame. Following his honorable completion of mandatory military service, Jin's immediate return to the entertainment world proved once again how deeply loved he is across the globe, selling out fan meetings and captivating audiences with his effortless charm and unwavering humility. When you analyze Robbie's controversial decision through the lens of a British pop titan who spent decades navigating band rivalries, chart battles, and intense public scrutiny, putting Jin at number 7 is by no means a shadow cast on his immense talent, but rather a stunning testament to the sheer, unparalleled talent density of BTS, where even the bottom of the list is a world-class megastar capable of holding the world in the palm of his hand. As we absorb the reality of Jin taking this controversial 7th spot, it leaves us reflecting on how much blood, sweat, and tears go into every single second of K-pop excellence, while naturally provoking the big question: if a vocalist and performer of Jin's magnificent caliber sits at the bottom of Robbie's list, who on earth could possibly be standing at number 6, and what brutal, unfiltered criteria will Robbie Williams unleash on them next?
Number 6, RM, the genius architect stripped of his crown, a heartbreaking truth. Stepping into the wildly controversial number 6 spot is the towering intellectual giant and the very foundational pillar of BTS, Kim Namjoon, universally known as RM. And let me tell you, placing the undisputed leader and mastermind this low on the list is a spectacularly bold move that absolutely demands a deep psychological unpack from a veteran like Robbie Williams. To genuinely grasp the sheer earth-shattering magnitude of RM's legacy, we must aggressively rewind to the grimy, fiercely competitive, underground hip-hop scene of South Korea, where a teenage prodigy once known as Runch Randa was already spitting bars with a staggering lyrical complexity and venom that terrified industry veterans twice his age. RM is not just another replaceable member of BTS, he is the literal genesis of the entire project, the sole reason visionary producer Bang Si-hyuk decided to form a hip-hop group in the first place, and a certified musical genius boasting an extraordinary IQ of 148, who incredibly taught himself fluent English simply by obsessively rewatching the classic American sitcom Friends. This seemingly innocent
nascent linguistic superpower would eventually transform into a massive psychological burden as RM was forced to carry the entire, crushing weight of BTS's Western media domination on his broad shoulders, acting as the ultimate shield, translator, and cultural diplomat for his brothers during their most intimidating international breakthroughs. When Robbie Williams, an artist who famously and disastrously rebelled against the manufactured, squeaky-clean constraints of the British boy band machine during his chaotic days in Take That, looks at RM, he sees an incredibly rare, almost mythical breed of artist, a true, unfiltered poet and intellectual trapped inside the relentless machinery of a colossal global pop phenomenon. RM has painstakingly penned and produced over 200 registered songs, pouring his deepest philosophical musings, existential dread, and brilliant multi-layered wordplay into tracks that completely define the emotional soul of the group, from the aggressive, razor-sharp socio-political commentary of Bipsai and Amygdala to the devastatingly vulnerable, soul-bearing reflections in his globally acclaimed solo masterpieces like Mono, Indigo, and the fiercely experimental Right Place, Wrong Person. Robbie, who has publicly wrestled with his own intense, highly documented demons of fame, media scrutiny, and the suffocating weight of public expectations, feels a profound, almost tragic kinship with RM's endless struggle to balance his raw underground hip-hop identity with his pristine global pop idol responsibilities. However, Robbie makes it brutally clear that this ranking is absolutely not a songwriting contest, nor an IQ test. It is a ruthless, holistic, and entirely subjective evaluation of the ultimate all-around pop spectacle. In Robbie's incredibly specific, hypercritical lens of what makes a quintessential stage-dominating pop god, the kind of wild, unpredictable energy he channeled in massive anthems like Let Me Entertain You, RM's presence on stage, while undeniably powerful and commanding, leans far more towards an introspective, cerebral hip-hop maestro than the fluid, hyperkinetic, flashy showman that traditionally claims the top spots in Western pop mythology. Robbie sharply observes that when RM performs, his energy is incredibly heavy, deeply grounded, and intensely focused on the lyrical delivery, planting his long legs firmly into the stage to deliver rapid-fire verses with a booming, authoritative baritone that commands absolute silence and unwavering respect from a stadium of 80,000 screaming fans, but in a group literally overflowing with supernatural dancers who contort their bodies with terrifying precision, and celestial vocalists who float across the stage like gravity is merely a suggestion. Robbie argues that RM's deliberate, raw hip-hop swagger can sometimes feel like it belongs to a completely different musical universe, slightly disconnecting him from the synchronized, pure pop hysteria that defines the absolute highest echelons of this brutal list. Think about the iconic, deeply moving moments when RM steps up to the United Nations podium, delivering historic speeches about self-love and youth empowerment with the immaculate poise of a seasoned world leader, or when he navigates a chaotic live interview on an American late-night show, seamlessly translating for his members while charming the host and keeping the group's squeaky-clean image perfectly intact against a barrage of tricky questions. RM is the ultimate protector, the brilliant tactician who courageously took all the initial bullets of harsh criticism, blatant racism, and cruel xenophobia thrown at BTS by the elitist Western music industry, absorbing the heavy, agonizing impact so his younger brothers could shine brightly and safely behind him. Robbie Williams deeply recognizes this immense, soul-crushing sacrifice, openly acknowledging in his evaluation that without RM's colossal brain, unparalleled leadership, and superhuman emotional maturity, BTS would have absolutely shattered and disintegrated into a million pieces under the unprecedented, mind-bending pressure of their own meteoric rise to global fame. Furthermore, RM's fascinating off-stage persona, famously known as Namjuning, where he finds deep spiritual peace by silently visiting contemporary art museums, curating million-dollar art collections, reading complex philosophy books, and riding his bicycle through quiet parks, stands in stark, almost jarring contrast to the wild, reckless, hotel-trashing pop star archetype that heavily influenced Robbie Williams' own era of fame. RM's hyper-awareness, his endless philosophical overthinking, and his stoic, unbreakable sense of responsibility as the leader naturally and inevitably temper that wild, reckless pop star abandon on stage. He is an introverted thinker, a visionary creator, an architect meticulously building the grand, majestic cathedral that the rest of the group dynamically performs inside. Placing the leader at number 6 is Robbie's highly controversial, provocative way of saying that while RM is unquestionably the most important brain in the room, and undoubtedly one of the finest, most profound lyricists of his entire generation, the coveted top spots on this specific, ruthless list are strictly reserved for the absolute unhinged performance beasts, whose primary lethal weapon is blinding, pure pop spectacle and instinctual physical domination. But as we sit back and digest this shocking, deeply emotional revelation, one has to vigorously wonder and anxiously bite their nails if the very man who brilliantly built BTS from the absolute ground up and masterfully penned their greatest, chart-topping hits is only sitting at a seemingly low number 6. What terrifying, superhuman level of talent, physical prowess, and raw charisma is genuinely required to break into the sacred top 5, and whose explosive, gravity-defying stage presence managed to unexpectedly outshine the genius leader himself in Robbie's unforgiving, eagle-eyed judgment. Number 5. Suga, the unapologetic rebel who played Robbie at his own dangerous game. Robbie Williams, who built his entire legendary solo career on being the chaotic, middle-finger-raising bad boy of British pop, taking immense pride in tearing up the rulebook and spitting out the heavily manufactured expectations of the industry, found an unexpected soul-piercing reflection of his own rebellious spirit when he meticulously analyzed the blazing phenomenon that is Min Yoongi, globally known as Suga, and his fiercely untamed alter ego, August D. When Robbie locked eyes with Suga's solo performances, he didn't just see a polished K-pop idol. He witnessed a gritty, street-hardened hip-hop titan who clawed his way up from the absolute rock bottom of the underground rap battles in his hometown of Daegu, originally operating under the moniker Gloss, where he practically starved in freezing basement studios just to create beats that nobody wanted to buy. This is a man who famously worked grueling delivery jobs late into the cold nights during his punishing trainee years, constantly battling the sheer exhaustion of trying to survive, while fiercely refusing to let his massive musical dreams die in the unforgiving shadows of Seoul. Robbie was completely blown away by this rags-to-riches, diamond-under-pressure origin story because it breeds a very specific, lethal kind of authenticity that simply cannot be taught in any fancy vocal academy or dance studio, an authenticity that explodes outward every single time Suga aggressively grips the microphone. In Suga, Robbie recognizes a fellow musical renegade, a brilliant, obsessive studio rat who not only writes and spits his own venomous, rapid-fire verses, but also masterminds massive, chart-annihilating hits as a genius producer for industry giants like Psy with the colossal summer anthem That, the ethereal masterpiece 8 for K-pop queen IU, and even legendary hip-hop veterans Epic High, cementing his undeniable status as an unstoppable creative powerhouse across the entire Korean music industry. But what truly pushed Suga up to the prestigious number 5 spot in Robbie's notoriously brutal, hypercritical ranking is the absolute unhinged savagery of his solo stage presence, vividly showcased during his historic, record-shattering D-Day solo world tour that aggressively grossed a staggering $57.2 million from over 300,000 screaming fans, officially making him the very first Asian Asian rapper in history to earn over $3 million in a single night at an American arena. Robbie watched in sheer awe as Suga commanded these massive global arenas with nothing but a microphone, a live rock band, and an effortlessly cool demeanor, roaring through aggressive, thunderous tracks like Dechuita and Hagum, with a ferocious, menacing growl that masterfully blends ancient traditional Korean instruments with punishing, hard-hitting modern trap beats. This level of sheer musical intimidation genuinely echoes the wild, dangerous stadium rock energy Robbie himself championed in explosive hits like Let Me Entertain You. And Robbie absolutely reveled in the moments where Suga would literally smash a guitar on stage, or casually walk off into the shadows at the end of a grueling set without looking back, a pure rock star move that screams absolute, unbothered dominance. Suga's breathtaking ability to effortlessly transition from a terrifying, fire-breathing rap monster who fearlessly cuts down his critics and industry hypocrites with razor-sharp lyrical precision into a deeply soulful acoustic guitar-strumming musician who pours his most profound philosophical thoughts into a quiet piano melody proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is a multi-dimensional rock star operating on a terrifyingly high frequency that thrusts the entire arena into an absolute hype zone. Robbie openly admitted in his controversial critique that if this were a ranking based purely on raw, unfiltered swagger, street credibility, and the rare ability to command a raging mosh pit-level crowd with absolutely zero backup dancers or flashy stage props, Suga would undeniably snatch the absolute #1 crown without a single drop of hesitation. Robbie sees a bit of the classic 90s Britpop defiance in Suga, a stoicism where he doesn't need to try hard to look cool. He just naturally radiates a heavy, intimidating aura that demands immediate respect the second he steps into the venue. However, Robbie firmly and strictly anchored his final, definitive decision on the overarching, unforgiving criteria of the ultimate, all-encompassing pop spectacle, an arena where the highest rankings strictly demand a supernatural, almost alien level of fluid choreography, hyperkinetic body control, and the kind of dazzling, shape-shifting pop theatricality that defines the absolute peak of modern global entertainment. While Suga's dancing is undoubtedly sharp, powerful, and deeply infused with a heavy hip-hop bounce that fits his gritty aesthetic perfectly, he is fundamentally, in his absolute core, a rapper and a producer first, lacking that terrifying, otherworldly elasticity and instinctual liquid movement that strictly defines the group's legendary main dancers, who routinely manipulate their bodies like fluid water. Robbie accurately pointed out that Suga frankly doesn't need complex, highly synchronized choreography to be an absolute god on stage. His mere piercing glare into the camera lens and his lethally calm, nonchalant smirk can instantly trigger a deafening, venue-shaking scream from tens of thousands of fans, proving that true star power often lies in absolute stillness and unshakable confidence rather than constant frenetic motion. Yet in the brutal gladiator-style arena of this specific pop dominance list, where every single millimeter of stage movement is heavily scrutinized by one of the greatest British showmen of all time, Suga's heavy reliance on gritty, stationary rap delivery and raw musicality slightly caps his placement right at the threshold of the elusive top 4. Placing the unapologetic, fire-spitting genius at number 5 is a massive, glowing compliment from Robbie, an explicit acknowledgement that Suga is the crucial, dark, rebellious edge that prevents BTS from ever becoming just another sugary, manufactured pop act. He is the venom, the brutal honesty, and the uncompromising soul of the group's underground hip-hop roots. As we collectively process the sheer gravity of Men Yoongi, the historic tour record breaker, and the ultimate musical mastermind sitting at the midway point of this wildly unpredictable countdown, the tension in the room room is becoming absolutely suffocating and almost unbearable to witness. If the dangerous, swagger-dripping bad boy who casually sets global arenas on fire with his rapid-fire tongue and acoustic guitar couldn't break into the sacred top four, what incredibly terrifying, gravity-defying, vocal-shredding, and stage-destroying monsters are patiently waiting behind the remaining numbers, and which beloved member is about to face the unfiltered, ruthless judgment of Robbie Williams next.
Number 4. BTS V, the baritone enigma. A captivating jazz soul trapped in a pop megastar's body. Crashing into the exquisitely painful and highly coveted number 4 spot is the absolute visual mastermind and the resident old soul of BTS, Kim Tae-hung, universally celebrated as V. And this specific placement by Robbie Williams is where the ranking officially transitions from brutally shocking to psychologically fascinating, because we are now dealing with an artist who completely defies every single traditional rule of the modern pop industry. To truly comprehend the enigmatic magnetism of V, we have to journey all the way back to his humble, incredibly grounded beginnings in Daegu, where he was raised by his beloved grandmother and genuinely believed his ultimate destiny in life was to become a simple farmer, a quiet existence that was completely derailed when he simply accompanied a friend to a big-hit entertainment audition just to offer moral support, only to be urged by an executive to audition himself, instantly capturing their attention with his striking otherworldly visuals and his unexpectedly deep, husky voice. But Big Hit recognized immediately that they had found an absolute diamond, an anomaly so rare that they famously concealed him from the public eye as the legendary hidden member of BTS, keeping him completely out of the group's pre-debut vlogs and promotional materials until the very last agonizing moment. A psychological endurance test that left a young Tae-hung feeling intensely isolated and terrified that he might be cut from the group. Yet it brilliantly built an unprecedented aura of mystery that exploded the second his face was finally revealed to the world. When Robbie Williams, an artist who flawlessly transitioned from a chaotic teen pop idol into a sophisticated, sharply dressed crooner with his legendary multi-platinum swing album, Swing When You're Winning, locked his eyes and ears onto V, he felt an immediate, profound artistic kinship that transcends typical pop music boundaries. The entire global K-pop industry is aggressively dominated by soaring tenors and breathy falsettos, making V's rich, dark, and velvety baritone an absolute vocal weapon, a grounding anchor that adds a luscious, mature, and deeply soulful texture to the group's explosive discography, allowing BTS to tackle complex emotional depths that other boy bands simply cannot reach. Robbie was completely mesmerized by V's solo masterpieces, meticulously analyzing the neo-soul perfection of Stigma, where V showcased his breathtaking falsetto transitions, and the haunting R&B seduction of Singularity, a track that Robbie considers an absolute masterclass in atmospheric pop theatricality. During the Singularity live stadium performances, V didn't rely on aggressive, sweat-drenched acrobatics. Instead, he commanded massive, sold-out arenas using just a simple coat rack, a white mask, and the sheer, hypnotic power of his facial expressions, manipulating the camera lens with such lethal precision and theatrical intensity that it felt less like a pop concert and more like an immersive, high-art Broadway monologue. Robbie absolutely reveres this specific type of charisma, noting that V possesses a rare, intoxicating vintage swagger, an old Hollywood mystique reminiscent of a young James Dean or Marlon Brando, combined with the musical sensibilities of a classic jazz legend like Chet Baker, which V heavily leaned into with the release of his critically acclaimed solo album, Layover, a stunning collection of 70s soul, lo-fi R&B, and jazz-infused tracks like Slow Dancing, Love Me Again, and Rainy Days that completely rejected the fast-paced, TikTok-driven pop trends in favor of pure, unfiltered artistic authenticity.
Furthermore, V's absolute dominance extends far beyond the microphone. He is a globally renowned fashion icon, a magnetic ambassador for luxury houses like Celine and Cartier, and a proven, deeply emotional actor who shattered hearts with his compelling performance in the historical drama Hwarang, proving that his ability to convey profound emotion is entirely unbound by the medium he chooses. But perhaps his most legendary contribution to the BTS universe is the invention of the phrase, "I purple you," or Borahae, a spontaneous, deeply emotional declaration of long-lasting trust and love that literally became the global symbol of the band, prompting massive international landmarks from the Empire State Building to the Wembley Stadium to light up in purple in their honor, showcasing a level of cultural impact that Robbie Williams acknowledges is reserved only for the most monumental figures in music history. V's duality is another factor that heavily weighed on Robbie's mind, the terrifyingly fast switch between the warm, clumsy, heavily endearing Tay-Tay persona who gets lost in foreign cities and plays affectionately with his famous Pomeranian Yenton, to the lethally sharp, dangerously seductive V persona who can utterly destroy a camera lens with a single calculating side-eye, is a psychological weapon that keeps the global fandom completely obsessed. But in the ruthless, razor-sharp context of this specific ranking, Robbie had to make an agonizingly difficult choice to place V at number 4, right on the precipice of the podium, and his reasoning is a fascinating study in the anatomy of pop dominance. Robbie explained that while V is unquestionably the undisputed god of mood, atmosphere, and aesthetic, possessing a laid-back, effortlessly cool jazz lounge swagger that seduces the audience with minimal physical exertion, the absolute pinnacle of this gladiator-style pop ranking demands a hyperkinetic, athletic, and explosive physical domination that literally sets the stage on fire. V's natural inclination is to flow like smooth velvet, playing with the beat and teasing the audience with a singular, devastating micro-expression, which is a stroke of absolute genius, but it slightly contrasts with the blinding, aggressive, superhuman kinetic energy that strictly defines the top 3 performers in Robbie's highly specific criteria. V doesn't need to break a massive sweat to make 80,000 people absolutely lose their minds. His supreme power lies in his devastating stillness and his ability to make every single fan feel like he is singing directly into their soul. A unique brand of magic that Robbie acknowledges is practically impossible to replicate, but simply exists on a different frequency than the pure, high-octane pop frenzy required for the medals. Placing this deep-voiced, jazz-loving visual masterpiece at number 4 is a colossal testament to V's unparalleled uniqueness in a heavily manufactured industry, a clear recognition that he operates on an entirely different, incredibly sophisticated artistic level that effortlessly commands global adoration without ever having to compromise his old soul identity. But as we painfully leave the baritone enigma just one step away from the ultimate podium, the sheer anticipation in the air becomes absolutely electrifying and suffocating, because if a man with the voice of a soulful angel, the face of a literal god, and the cultural power to paint the entire world purple couldn't crack the top 3, what impossible supernatural level of talent is required to claim the bronze, silver, and gold medals, and who among the remaining 3 absolute titans of the BTS dance line is about to be pushed to their absolute limits under Robbie Williams' unforgiving, blinding spotlight next? Number 3, J-Hope, the undisputed dance captain, striking fear into pop royalty. Claiming the prestigious bronze medal in this intensely thrilling countdown is the literal beating heart, explosive rhythm engine, and official performance director of BTS, Jungkook, universally adored across the globe as J-Hope, and placing him at number 3 is a monumental statement that underlines just how high the stakes have truly become in Robbie Williams' unfiltered assessment. To fully grasp why J-Hope rightfully shottered his way into the top 3, we must travel back to the vibrant streets of Gwangju, South Korea, where a young teenage prodigy was already building a legendary reputation in the underground street dance community under the crew name Neuron, winning national dance competitions, mastering locking, popping, and hip-hop isolations long before he ever stepped foot into a commercial recording studio. When J-Hope entered Big Hit Entertainment, he wasn't even a trained rapper or vocalist. He was purely an explosive street dancer whose raw physical talent was so transcendent that the agency built their early performance identity entirely around his unmatched ability to move. In a heartbreaking moment during their trainee days that almost altered pop history forever, J-Hope actually left the company due to intense uncertainty, prompting an emotional intervention from RM, who fiercely convinced Big Hit executives that BTS could never succeed without Jungkook, proving that his presence was the ultimate cornerstone of the group's future existence. Under the rigorous guidance of RM and Suga, J-Hope transformed himself with terrifying speed, teaching himself music theory, rhythm structure, and rapid-fire cadence to become one of the most uniquely rhythmic, tone-shifting rappers in the global music scene today, seamlessly blending high-pitched, playful bounces with dark, aggressive, old-school boom-bap flows. Robbie Williams, who famously played 3 consecutive nights at Kenilworth in 2003 to an astounding 375,000 screaming people, knows better than almost anyone the grueling physical toll and raw animalistic stamina required to hold a massive festival crowd in the palm of your hand for hours without losing a single drop of energy. Robbie was completely floored when he thoroughly analyzed J-Hope's historic, record-shattering headlining set at Lollapalooza in Chicago in 2022, affectionately dubbed Hopiepalooza, where J-Hope made history as the very first South Korean artist to headline a major American music festival, single-handedly commanding over 105,000 festival-goers through a grueling 18-song setlist with 0 backing vocal crutches, flawless live band interactions, and an explosive, infectious energy that sent shockwaves through the global music press. Robbie noted that J-Hope's transition from the bright sunshine persona seen in pop anthems like Dynamite and Butter to the dark, gritty, grunge-infused hip-hop aesthetic of his solo album Jack in the Box, featuring ferocious tracks like More and Arson, demonstrates a profound artistic duality that only the absolute greatest showmen in history possess. Inside the BTS rehearsal studios, J-Hope is famously revered and secretly feared as Teacher Jung, the ruthless, eagle-eyed dance captain whose silent, sharp glare in the studio mirror when someone misses a single microbeat can instill immediate, intense discipline in the other members, acting as the ultimate human metronome that keeps the group's legendary synchronization completely airtight across world tours. Robbie praised J-Hope's terrifying physical isolation skills, pointing out that during iconic tracks like Mic Drop, Bepse, and his breathtaking solo masterpiece, Boy Meets Evil, J-Hope doesn't just execute choreography, he literally bends gravity, snapping his limbs with razor-sharp precision while maintaining flawless, unbreathless vocal control that leaves professional dancers in absolute awe. Robbie compared J-Hope's stage presence to a living nuclear reactor, an artist whose infectious smile and radiant joy can instantly illuminate an entire stadium, yet whose underlying work ethic is so obsessively disciplined that he reportedly practices movements thousands of times until muscle memory takes over entirely. Beyond his physical mastery, J-Hope's immense artistic versatility shines through his record-breaking collaborations, such as the viral global smash Chicken Noodle Soup with Becky G, and his deeply sentimental, smooth hip-hop ode On the Street, featuring his childhood rap idol J. Cole, proving his extraordinary ability to bridge cultural and linguistic divides with pure, unadulterated passion. Even during his mandatory military service, where he served with supreme distinction as an assistant drill instructor, J-Hope's influence never dimmed, returning to the spotlight with his documentary and soundtrack project, Hope on the Street, reaffirming his eternal bond with the global street dance culture that raised him. But in the razor-thin margin separating the top 3 positions, Robbie Williams had to justify why this superhuman dance general stopped at number 3 instead of snatching the ultimate gold medal. Robbie explained that while J-Hope is the absolute pinnacle of rhythm, street credibility, and physical precision, his performance style is heavily grounded in high-intensity structured hip-hop perfectionism, which slightly contrasts with the surreal, ethereal, emotional fluidity and the raw, textbook pop god perfection of the 2 legendary titans standing above him. Robbie noted that J-Hope commands the stage like an elite, unstoppable martial artist who plans every single strike with lethal accuracy, whereas the ultimate top 2 performers possess a slightly different, otherworldly frequency, one driven by raw, fluid emotion that feels almost supernatural and completely unpredictable on a massive stadium scale. Placing the incredible Jungkook at number 3 is Robbie's highest praise for a true master of movement, recognizing him as the physical engine that transformed BTS into the most formidable performing force on the planet today. As we stand breathless at the doorstep of the grand finale, with J-Hope holding down the bronze medal, the atmosphere is utterly suffocating with pure adrenaline and disbelief, because only 2 legendary members remain standing in this ultimate gladiator arena: the ethereal, gravity-defying modern dancer with the voice of an angel, and the unstoppable golden pop prodigy who can do absolutely everything, leaving us with the most agonizing, mind-melding question of all. Who will Robbie Williams crush at number 2, and who will be crowned the ultimate, undisputed number 1 pop god of BTS?
Number 2, Jimin, the angelic featherweight dancer whose emotional fire devastated Robbie Williams' critical heart. Crashing into the spectacularly breathtaking and fiercely contested silver medal position is the mesmerizing, gravity-defying, ethereal prince of BTS, Park Jimin. And let me tell you, placing this particular modern dance prodigy at number 2 was a decision that reportedly tore Robbie Williams' critical mind right down the middle. To truly comprehend the devastatingly beautiful, heart-wrenching artistry of Jimin, we have to rewind the clock to his intense academic origins as a top-tier student in the highly prestigious modern dance department at the Busan High School of Arts, where his sheer, unadulterated talent for contemporary movement was so blindingly obvious that a teacher practically begged him to audition for an entertainment company. When he finally arrived in Seoul, Jimin faced a notoriously brutal trainee period at Big Hit Entertainment, a grueling era where he was almost cut from the final debut lineup multiple times, a terrifying reality that forced him to survive on merely 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night. During those agonizing trainee days, Jimin would literally sleep inside the cold practice room, pushing his muscles to the point of agonizing failure, just to ensure his movements mirrored the immaculate perfection he demanded of himself. A terrifying work ethic that eventually transformed him into the undisputed killing part specialist of the entire group. This unimaginable level of desperate life-or-death perseverance birthed a performer whose emotional intensity on stage is so raw, so violently beautiful, that it leaves even seasoned industry veterans completely speechless. Robbie Williams, an artist who understands the suffocating pressure of trying to physically and emotionally connect with a roaring stadium of 80,000 screaming people, was utterly paralyzed by Jimin's supernatural ability to weaponize vulnerability, observing that Jimin doesn't just dance to the rhythm, he literally bleeds the emotion of the song through every single fingertip, muscle, and breath. When Robbie meticulously dissected Jimin's solo masterpieces, starting from the hauntingly theatrical, high-art psychological thriller of Lie, moving to the incredibly delicate celestial romanticism of Serendipity, culminating in the seductive, gender-blurring Latin pop explosion of Filter, and exploding into the aggressive, choir-backed hip-hop defiance of Set Me Free Part 2, he realized he was witnessing a rare, once-in-a-generation chameleon.
Jimin completely shatters traditional boy band archetypes by seamlessly fusing aggressive, hard-hitting masculine hip-hop energy with a breathtakingly graceful, almost feline feminine elegance, a duality that was perfectly crystallized during his legendary viral modern dance solo at the 2018 Melon Music Awards, performing a traditional Korean fan dance that instantly broke the internet and cemented his status as a living, breathing work of art. But Jimin is not just a dancer. He possesses one of the most uniquely distinctive, fiercely debated, and deeply loved voices in the entire global pop industry, a soaring, stratospheric countertenor that cuts through heavily produced tracks with a delicate, angelic fragility that can instantly pivot into a raspy, agonizing wail of pure passion. Robbie openly marveled at Jimin's monumental, unprecedented success as a solo artist, specifically noting the absolute historical earthquake he caused in 2023 when he unleashed his debut solo album, Face, and its synth-pop masterpiece lead single, Like Crazy, which utterly obliterated industry expectations by debuting straight at #1 on the ultra-competitive US Billboard Hot 100. By achieving this earth-shattering milestone, Jimin officially became the very first South Korean solo artist in the entire history of music to top the American charts, completely bypassing established Western industry gatekeepers and proving that his hypnotic allure and agonizingly beautiful vocal tone possess a terrifying, undeniable global commercial power that rivals the biggest Western pop divas of our time. Furthermore, Robbie was deeply moved by Jimin's immense philanthropic heart outside the studio, constantly making massive silent donations to educational foundations and child welfare organizations in his hometown of Busan, proving that the heart beating beneath the glitzy pop star exterior is just as pure and dedicated as his flawless dance movements. Robbie observed that during massive stadium anthems like Black Swan and Blood, Sweat and Tears, Jimin consistently serves as the absolute emotional climax of the performance, notoriously executing perfectly timed hair flips, dramatic floor sweeps, and that iconic accidental shoulder drop that instantly sends millions of fans into a collective, hyperventilating meltdown. He is the ultimate intoxicating muse of BTS, a performer so devastatingly committed to the aesthetic and the emotional narrative of a song that he frequently looks like a tortured, tragic, romantic hero, performing his final desperate swan song in the middle of a chaotic, high-octane pop spectacle. So why did this angelic, history-making, chart-topping modern dance god stop at the silver medal instead of taking the ultimate golden crown? Robbie Williams, armed with his unforgiving, razor-sharp criteria for the absolute, undisputable pop apex, explained that Jimin's hyper-focused, intensely emotional, and exquisitely delicate performance style places him in a highly specialized, elevated category of high art theatricality, a breathtaking aesthetic that is undeniably perfect, yet perhaps slightly distinct from the relentless, all-consuming, jack-of-all-trades, powerhouse stamina required to be the ultimate, universal pop gladiator. Jimin operates on a frequency of pure, intoxicating poetry, capturing the hearts of millions with his agonizing vulnerability and his impossibly sweet, empathetic offstage personality. But the #1 spot on this specific, ruthless list demands an unstoppable, indestructible, and entirely bulletproof golden prodigy who can aggressively dominate every single musical discipline with frightening, almost robotic perfection. Placing the ethereal Park Jimin at a glorious #2 is Robbie's profound emotional salute to the absolute most beautiful dancer in modern pop history, a man who elevated K-pop from standard commercial entertainment into a tear-jerking, visceral form of high contemporary art. But as we painfully tear our eyes away from Jimin's mesmerizing silver medal glow, the stadium lights suddenly go completely dark, the absolute final deafening drumroll begins to shake the earth, and an unbearable, suffocating tension grips our throats, because there is only one man left standing in this brutal arena. If the brilliant architect who built the group, the rebellious genius who writes the hits, the old soul baritone who sets the mood, the unstoppable dance captain who directs the moves, and the angelic, billboard-topping dancer who broke the world's heart couldn't take the top spot, what incredibly terrifying, limitless, boundary-shattering monster has Robbie Williams crowned as the undisputed, absolute best member of BTS? And are you genuinely prepared to face the explosive truth behind the golden finale?
Number 1. Jungkook, the unstoppable golden prodigy who crowned himself the ultimate pop god. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, standing at the absolute, terrifying, breathtaking summit of this historically controversial and mind-melting countdown, completely stripped of any remaining doubt, where the undisputed golden crown is officially placed upon the head of the ultimate pop anomaly, Jungkook, a decision by Robbie Williams that feels less like an opinion and more like an indisputable law of musical gravity. To genuinely comprehend the sheer astronomical magnitude of why this 26-year-old titan effortlessly conquered the absolute number 1 spot, we have to desperately rewind to a time when he was just a shy, wide-eyed 15-year-old boy from Busan who auditioned for the talent show Superstar K. And despite not making the final cut, his raw, unpolished aura was so blindingly magnetic that 7 of the most powerful elite entertainment agencies in South Korea immediately launched a ruthless bidding war just to sign him. In a twist of fate that literally changed the course of global music history forever, a young Jungkook rejected all the massive, wealthy corporations and chose a nearly bankrupt, obscure agency called Big Hit Entertainment for one singular fateful reason. He walked into a studio, saw RM aggressively rapping, and thought he looked incredibly cool, a decision that essentially handed BTS their ultimate invincible secret weapon. When a seasoned, battle-hardened pop veteran like Robbie Williams, a man who has completely seen, lived, and dominated every single chaotic era of the global music industry, looks at Jungkook, he doesn't just see a K-pop idol, he sees the terrifying, once-in-a-lifetime reincarnation of the ultimate 20th century pop god archetype, drawing massive, undeniable comparisons to the prime, untouchable eras of Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, and George Michael, but supercharged with an entirely new, modern global frequency. Jungkook is universally feared and revered across the industry as the Golden Maknae because he suffers from a terrifying affliction of absolute perfectionism where he is literally incapable of being bad at anything he attempts, possessing a soaring, angelic vocal tone that can execute mind-bending R&B runs and glass-shattering high notes with zero effort, while simultaneously executing bone-breaking, high-octane hip-hop choreography right alongside the group's legendary main dancers like J-Hope and Jimin. A dual-threat capability that mathematically shouldn't exist in one human body. Robbie was completely paralyzed by Jungkook's unprecedented, world-conquering solo era, meticulously analyzing the explosive cultural earthquake that was his debut solo album, Golden, an aptly named masterpiece that utterly shattered every single conceivable record in the music industry, transforming Jungkook from a beloved boy band member into an untouchable global pop emperor. Just look at the cold, hard, terrifying statistics of his monstrous debut single, 7, featuring Lotto, which didn't just chart, it aggressively obliterated the Spotify history books by becoming the fastest song in the history of the entire platform to reach 1 billion streams, reigning supreme at the absolute top of the US Billboard Hot 100, and literally setting the entire world on fire with an infectious UK garage beat that proved Jungkook could effortlessly dominate the most cutthroat Western pop markets without breaking a single sweat.
Robbie Williams enthusiastically highlighted the sheer ridiculous audacity of Jungkook's live performances during this era, explicitly pointing to his historic, heart-stopping guerrilla performance at the TSX Entertainment stage in the middle of New York's Times Square, where Jungkook stood completely alone on a tiny balcony suspended above a roaring ocean of tens of thousands of screaming fans, wearing a simple leather jacket, and delivered a masterclass in pure, unadulterated swagger, commanding the center of the universe with a relaxed, lethal smirk that screams absolute pop supremacy. When you watch him perform standing next to you, it is a visceral, jaw-dropping experience of retro-funk domination, where he unleashes a hyperkinetic, aggressively sharp Michael Jackson-esque choreography while belting out flawless, lung-busting live vocals, proving that his stamina is essentially infinite and his stage presence is a weapon of mass destruction that effortlessly incinerates any remaining pop rivals. But what truly solidified Jungkook's absolute placement at the zenith of Robbie's ruthless list is his unbelievable, terrifying adaptability. He can sing a devastatingly emotional, tear-jerking ballad like Still With You that rips your soul entirely out of your chest, and in the very next breath, he can jump onto a massive stadium stage to perform Dreamers at the opening ceremony of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, holding the undivided attention of billions of global viewers with the regal, unbothered confidence of a seasoned king who was literally born to rule the entire world. Robbie noted that in the brutal, unforgiving mathematics of pop stardom, where an artist usually has to desperately sacrifice vocal stability for danceability, or trade pure stage charisma for technical skill, Jungkook aggressively defies the laws of physics by maxing out every single stat on the board, operating as a flawless, indestructible cyborg of pure entertainment, who simply possesses no discernible weaknesses whatsoever. Furthermore, Robbie was deeply fascinated by the fact that Jungkook's genius is not merely confined to the microphone or the dance floor. He is an incredibly gifted visual artist, a brilliant self-taught video director who created the legendary Golden Closet Films, or GCF, to beautifully document his travels with his members, and an instinctual creative force who absorbs and masters new skills, from boxing and playing the drums to painting, with a terrifying, almost alien-like speed. Yet beyond the dazzling lights, the historic Billboard records, the massive Spotify billions, and the shiny awards, there beats the heart of an incredibly humble, fiercely loyal young man who famously bows a full 90 degrees to every single staff member, who still looks at his 6 older BTS brothers with the exact same wide-eyed, unconditional adoration he had when he was 15, and who continuously attributes his literal god-tier success entirely to the unwavering love of the army, often spending hours on random late-night live streams just singing karaoke, folding his laundry, and genuinely connecting with millions of fans as if they were his close childhood friends in a living room, an intimate vulnerability that makes his untouchable godlike status on stage even more intoxicating to the masses. Placing Jungkook at number 1 is Robbie Williams' ultimate definitive surrender to the absolute highest peak of human musical potential, a glowing, undeniable acknowledgement that when you combine God-given, once-in-a-century God-tier talent with an unimaginably brutal, relentless work ethic, you don't just get a pop star, you create a living, breathing, immortal legend who will definitively shape the trajectory of global music for decades to come, leaving absolutely no question that the Golden Maknae is without a shadow of a single doubt the greatest, most unstoppable force the pop universe has ever witnessed, and marking the spectacularly epic, breathtaking conclusion to this unbelievable documentary countdown.
And there you have it, the absolute, mind-blowing, and undeniably controversial ranking of all 7 BTS members through the hypercritical rock and roll lens of Robbie Williams. From the sweeping, stadium-shaking vocal belts of Jin at number 7, all the way to the breathtaking, unparalleled global domination of the Golden Maknae, Jungkook, at the absolute summit, this incredible journey has proven one undeniable universal truth. BTS
BTS is not just a standard boy band, they are a once-in-a-lifetime cultural phenomenon where every single member possesses enough raw talent, blinding charisma, and staggering artistic genius to completely conquer the global music industry all on their own. Robbie's brutal, unfiltered assessment might have absolutely shattered traditional expectations and sparked fierce, passionate debates across the internet, but it also brilliantly highlighted the sheer, terrifying talent density that makes this group an unstoppable, world-conquering force of nature. Whether you completely agree with Robbie's wild, rock star-driven criteria, or you are currently screaming at your screen because your ultimate bias was unexpectedly placed lower on the list, you have to admit that exploring the individual artistry, the agonizing struggles, and the awe-inspiring triumphs of RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook is a deeply emotional roller coaster that leaves us all with a profound, newfound respect for the blood, sweat, and tears they have constantly poured into their legendary craft. As we finally step out of this ultimate adrenaline-fueled hype zone, taking a desperate moment to catch our breath and deeply reflect on the absolute peak of modern musical excellence we have just witnessed, we know that the conversation is far from over. We want to hear your raw, unfiltered thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think Robbie Williams completely nailed this ranking with his veteran pop god instincts, or did he entirely miss the mark on your favorite member's unique world-class stage presence? If you had to step into the incredibly intimidating shoes of a legendary music industry veteran and rank these 7 mesmerizing titans based on pure, unadulterated performance power, who would fiercely claim your absolute #1 spot, and how would you construct your own definitive list? Don't forget to fiercely smash that like button if this intense documentary-style deep dive completely blew your mind. Share this narrative with every single passionate army you know to immediately spark the ultimate fandom debate. And hit subscribe so you never miss another thrilling, heavily detailed exploration into the greatest pop culture mysteries of our generation. Until next time, keep streaming, keep supporting the absolute kings of K-pop, and always remember that in the dazzling, wildly unpredictable universe of BTS, every single member is a living, breathing legend, continuing to rewrite the history books one monumental stadium stage at a time.